All right, let's do it live on day 2 of training camp. Merely Beau, the great Z. How you doing, pal?
I'm great. And yesterday, day 1 of training camp, and we were going to ease into things, and we did. I mean, the 11-on-11s were definitely jog-throughs. We're ramping it up, as we heard Kevin Stefanski say. We've got a 17th game. We're not trying to win anything here in July. We're building for this football season. But in the 7-on-7s, it was crisp, and boy, Baker Mayfield is in incredible condition, and he was absolutely spinning it yesterday. Some big-time throws. He had a bomb to Schwartz, which I think he's going to have to start to remember and recalibrate what it was like with D.D. Westbrook and Hollywood Brown down there at Oklahoma when you really have to put the ball out there and let them run under it because Schwartz can flat-out fly. He had a laser down the seam to Austin Hooper that was a beaut. And then probably the play of the day involving Baker, Jarvis ran an out and up and beat Denzel on the out and up, and he threaded it between the safety getting over there, get it to Jarvis, we heard him say yesterday, look, I didn't have an off-season surgery. I feel good. I feel fast, and it showed. I mean, he looked great. It was a fun day. And then the real highlight, though, not involving Baker, Donovan Peoples-Jones, which I'm sure you've seen. You're not hard of seeing on the internet, was one of the plays of the day, and he just continues to be very, very impressive.
It's there were so much. For the folks, a couple of things for the kids out there. I really enjoy reading Jake's rundowns that he puts of everything that he saw. I enjoy that, and I love when he comes on. And then the next thing that I look for is your 2-minute drill, which is what I want to see. And I can tell, I know you fairly well at this juncture.
Even though you don't follow me on social, I think you do.
Even though I don't follow you on social, it does find its way to me. And I can tell with your tone in about a second and a half where you're at mentally. I can tell in about a second and a half. That's how well I feel like I know you. And for the kids out there, let's remember that when I was doing television down in Columbus, I used to toss to you. You used to do things for us for the CBS affiliate down there.
That's
and
right,
so
foreshadowing.
I've been tossing. It's been a little bit of foreshadowing. We were partnered a long time ago. There is you and I on a television screen together does exist. There is archive footage of that. So I can tell real quickly where you're at. And so
you're probably
Jake was
tossing
great.
to me in some lean years, brother. You're tossing to me in some dark times. Hard times.
I do remember. I do remember. It's funny you say that. This just jumped into my head. I do remember you being very enthusiastic about the beautiful orange jerseys. I do remember that. that was something that was a point of contention. That we were very excited about the beautiful orange jerseys.
I know where my bread is buttered, my friend.
That's right. That's right, buddy. But I could tell, and when you show the 2-minute drill and you see all the clips, and I think that is, Donovan Peoples-Jones, absolutely, and we'll ask Coach about it as he joins us here in a few minutes, but I see a Baker Mayfield that is the master of his domain.
It's a great way to put it.
And we have seen it in games at various points, certainly. His rookie year, last year, absolutely post bye week and even in the Cincinnati game. But we haven't seen it in practice because let's remember, he was not taking first-team reps as a rookie. He was learning a new offense as a second-year player. Last year he was learning yet another new offense and was just trying to keep his head above water. What I saw in the limited video that I saw, which you're not able to see all of it, obviously, and not able to see coaches film and those type of things, but from what I saw the quarterback that was drafted number 1 overall, who was decisive, who was quick, who had a monster arm, who put it exactly where he wanted to, who was accurate, and who was master of his domain. And that's what it's one practice, but it is a harbinger of things to come, I do believe, because you have a quarterback who knows exactly where he's supposed to go with the ball. He sees it, he rips it, he trusts it. All of these things, folks, if you've listened to the show over the last 4 years, and this show, you and I have been doing this show the entire time Baker's been a Cleveland Brown, these are the important factors, and he's got them all in spades right now, and that's what jumped out to me in day 1.
Couple of things. Number 1, you mentioned the Jake Trotter write-up. I was laughing because obviously I had cut the 2-minute drill prior to that write-up, and his write-up was basically my 2-minute drill and my notes that the copious notes I had taken were pretty much one and the same. He also got into some other stuff but in terms of what he saw that day at practice, it was the same, and I teased him about that earlier. Number 2, as it relates to Baker Mayfield, and we're going to hear from him. He spoke at the podium today, and I got a chance to be down there for the entirety of that session. he is a man who is very comfortable where he is right now. He is very comfortable in the knowledge that, he played much better as the season went on. He is very comfortable with this offense now. And he was asked a question, which we'll play, I'm sure. Basically, what do you think? What changed? What got better? And he started to say, like you did. Instead of predetermining, these are his words, instead of predetermining where I was going to go with the ball, I just played and I reacted and let our scheme and their scheme dictate where the ball went. And I started distributing it very effectively, and clearly that worked. He was spinning it yesterday. He was confident. There was no hesitation. The ball was coming out. There were a lot of beautiful throws yesterday. What I would add to that is physically he has undergone a transformation. And I was talking with Jake. I think there might be something coming. Keep an eye out for something from Jake on that note, because just standing there looking at him, his quads, he's trying to come after Saquon Barkley. He's trying to become Quadzilla. Yeah. He looks to be in incredible condition. And you think about him, that base, the way that he likes to throw and generate that torque with his lower body, he looks great. And he looked confident. And that's the thing. It didn't look like day one of training camp. We looked like a well-oiled, and we should. This is an offense that's running it back.
We're running it back.
It's not our first rodeo here. So, no. But if there was a couple of storylines, it would be Baker, number one. Number two would be just how good Odell and Jarvis looked. And they kept Odell fairly limited, but you could see just when he was running around how explosive he is. It's seemingly defying what I understand of the human body that he is where he is right now. Yes. The third thing, and this is, Donovan Peoples-Jones continues to impress me. And here's something that, I'm going to ask Coach Stefanski about, and I've made a note that I make sure that I do ask him about it. But Baker, not only was he great on the field in terms of his throwing, he's taken kind of a step forward and in terms of just the leadership because of his command of the offense. And one of the guys that it felt to me like he was really taking an interest in post-snap and post-play, saying, hey, did you see this, was Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think that they're aware that there is a special talent to be unlocked in Donovan Peoples-Jones. We got a taste of it last year in his rookie season. And then the other guy that I thought jumped out to me was Demetric Felton. 25 looks good on a running back who's shifty. It just does, from Shady McCoy, Jamal Charles, and, of course, Reggie Bush. Long way to go to get even in those conversations. I'm not suggesting anything of that ilk, but what I am saying is he looks like a guy that when you get him the ball in space can make people miss. And he had a couple jump cuts yesterday, and I know Gibbe saw, where he was able to just – a linebacker thought they had the angle on him, and whoop, and then there he was, and he was gone. And so I thought he had a nice day and, taking advantage, obviously, of some opportunities that were probably afforded to him with Dearness Johnson away for a few days. And that's what you do. And I think there's room for both of those guys on this roster. But I thought that it was that's kind of really what I saw offensively.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to get the attention. You're really not going to know, defensively, the position stuff that we're talking about. That'll come Tuesday. That's when the pads will come on. So we're talking about linebackers and defensive tackles, and those battles, those will start to take place and be won or lost on Tuesday of next week. That is when the fans come on. Will be next. Well, I'm sorry. That's when the pads will come on. Will be next Tuesday. Fans get in here tomorrow, of course. Today is day 2 of camp, so an acclimation day there. Go ahead, Z.
Yeah, I was just saying from a defensive standpoint, they're really not doing anything in the trenches, although there were a couple of times that had the plays been live where Tack McKinley would have decleated the quarterback. His speed around the edge is noticeable. And when you think about when we get into some more of those exotic formations, it's gonna be fun to see how that goes. And they rotate the defensive line. And if you're, James Hudson, who was spending a lot of time at right tackle in the minicamp, he was second team left tackle. Hub was second team right tackle. He got lined up with Myles Garrett and Tack quite a bit. That's a pretty good baptism for a young offensive tackle in this league. And so I think that'll be fun to watch for his development. But those guys look good. And then the other one who really caught my eye defensively, and first of all, I should say Greedy Williams did leave about 10 minutes early. For those who haven't seen the Brown statement, it was heat-related, fine, expected to go today. So that's good news there. But I'll go back to Mac. Mac looks good. His body looks good, and he looked fast. And I thought he had a couple nice pass breakups yesterday. He just looked really comfortable out there, and I thought that was good to see for Mac.
He did, and those were your OBM Hot Topics. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns. For all the X's and O's for your office, Call 216-485-2000. Visit OhioBusinessMachines.com. Your head coach, Kevin Stefanski, will join us on the program live. Coming up next, you'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Benefits have been denied. Call the disability lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk & Elk's a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. With that, we're joined live in studio by our guy, the head coach of your Cleveland Browns. He's Kevin Stefanski. Practice number 2 will be commencing here shortly. Coach, thank you so much for the time. Look, no one's going to crown anybody on July 28th or 29th, certainly, but it was fun to see everybody back out there for us. I'm sure it was fun for you. I think the thing that I want to ask you about right away was your quarterback, and Nathan and I talked about it in the first segment. This is his first time with the same offense, and I used a Seinfeld reference, master of his domain. He seemed so confident in what he saw and what he was doing with the football, and I understand it's one, and that's the way it should look. We're running it back, but it looked really, really cool to see him running your offense. What did you make of it yesterday?
Yeah, Beau, I thought he had a nice day. I thought, like you mentioned, it was exciting just to have the guys in the building. It was exciting to be out on the field with them, and just seeing those guys interact with each other, just pre-practice, post-practice. I think some of the things that you remember we missed out on, just being around each other, physically around each other. And those are the type of things that were fun to watch yesterday. But Baker, as is no surprise to anybody, he's locked in. I mean, he's taking this very seriously. He's preparing like he needs to, and I think he understands that. So he's ready to roll, and I'm excited to see him today as well.
It was crisp. It was crisp yesterday for day one, and just seeing him out there and then seeing him at the podium. I feel like not only does it seem like he's had a maturation just from his leadership style, and we'll talk about that in a second, but physically he looks to be in incredible condition. I was joking earlier, he's going after Saquon for Quadzilla. I mean, he's in incredible condition as well. So that shows that commitment you're talking about.
He came back in great shape, just like he did last year. He did a great job last year. He did that again, and I'd point him out. I'd point out, really, there's a ton of guys that came back in really good shape.
A lot of specimens out there.
Yeah, present company notwithstanding. But he did a great job, and I made sure to tell the guys, there are a bunch of guys who in a short period of time being away from each other, they transform their body, and that's what you have to do in this league. It comes at you fast. There's 17 of these things, so you got to make sure you have the foundation ready to roll.
So in addition to, kind of growing in this offense and the crispness we saw, I saw something that I liked it, I'm curious what you thought of it, was just that after a lot of plays, Baker would go talk to his receivers. And one guy it seems like he has an interest in, and I know we do on the show based on what he did in his rookie season, was Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's probably on your list of guys who have transformed their body. He looks faster, stronger, made some great plays. But that comfort, is that allowing Baker to be kind of an extension of you with these guys, and seeing a guy with the kind of talent DPJ has saying, let's get on the same page here?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it, getting on the same page. And I think as you grow in this system, in any system that is, you get into year 2, and as a quarterback, now you have a firm grasp. Now you can go get the nuance with the receivers. You can rhythm up with the tight ends and talk through it. So I think that's where we are, and I think that's any good quarterback wants to hear from the receivers, wants to hear from the pass catchers and understand what they're seeing as they go out on their routes, and so that they're seeing the same thing. And I think that's a very natural thing to happen throughout the course of practice.
Coach, DPJ looking absolutely awesome. Your top 2 receivers look pretty good too. And Jarvis commented that he was rehabbing from a surgery last year in camp and now feels great. And Odell, my goodness, I don't know how the human body can heal that way, the way that he has. What do you make of those 2 veterans who looked really, really fluid and smooth yesterday?
Yeah, they did a nice job. Again, 2 guys that came in great shape, good understanding what we're doing, and they're pushing each other. They're pushing the other receivers. We want practice to be competitive, even when you're on air, even when you're not going against the defense. We want to be competitive. We want to push each other. I was fortunate when I was with the Vikings to be around Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen, and to see those guys push each other. I think that's a great, great message to the rest of the team. I think that's kind of what you have with our 2 guys that you mentioned. They push each other. You watch them move out at practice, and then even when they work off to the side, could be a special teams drill, but to see veterans go over there and get extra work, I think sends a great message to the rest of the team.
Yeah, there was a special teams period where it was basically Baker was thrown to Odell, Jarvis, Hoop, and the Chief put in that extra work. And, yeah, I'd imagine that does send a nice message to the young guys.
It really does. And we want to, when we're on the field and when we're in this building, when we're on this campus, I should say.
The cross-country mortgage campus. That's right.
When you're on campus, you're here to work. And that's what we're doing in the meeting rooms. And then out on the field, what I love to do as a head coach is I get to stand there and take it all in, and to see our coaches coach and to see them not waste any opportunity to go make a player better. That's so great for me to see from my vantage point.
All right, we've started off with the offense here, obviously, but the big story, I think, is the defense of the Cleveland Browns. And in these situations, sometimes it's harder to get a look till the pads come on. You don't want them hitting anybody. We don't want to see any of that. But let me start with this. Greedy, good. Good, fantastic. So went in there, was heat-related yesterday, so he's good to go. Defensively, how exciting is it to finally see all those guys out there? But how do you get a sense of really how they're coming along?
Yeah, I think you go back to minicamp, which was the first time that we had everybody on campus.
That's right. I like
cross-country mortgage campus.
He's good, folks. He's good.
Great to have that group there at minicamp and now back here. And like you mentioned, we are going at a pace that's conducive to learning right now, a pace that's conducive to teaching. So we go into these 7-on-7 drills, and I was joking with you earlier, that's an offensive drill. There's no pass rush. So the quarterback better be 90% in that drill. But to see our guys starting to take these installs, line up in some positions that are maybe new to them, and see the coaches working with them, I think it's like anything else. You can't skip steps. So we're starting on step 1, then we'll move on to step 2. And I think that's where the coaches are outstanding teachers, because that's the teaching progression that has to occur. You really can't skip steps.
Coach, tomorrow our fans will be here for the first time since you've been the head coach of this franchise. And I had never, until I saw a Cleveland Browns fan training camp, I'd never seen anything previously like it. It's special. Yes. And I know you're laser focused on the plan and all of your things, but will it be something you take notice of? Will it be special of you to see our fans and them more specifically at camp?
Yeah, without a doubt, Beau. I can't wait. And I've heard the stories. I haven't experienced it yet, and what we're doing to have the fans out there and in a safe manner, I just think it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to hear them. I think there's a juice, obviously, that the fans bring to practice. I know our players are going to be excited about it. They enjoy to be cheered. Who doesn't? So I think it's a great energy for them. And I think back to, the fans that we did have in First Energy Stadium last year, how loud they were. I mean, that's our weapon when we're at home. That's a huge part of home field advantage. So to get to see a little bit of that tomorrow, I know I'm looking forward to it, and I'm very positive that our team is looking forward to it as well.
Plus, they know if you're juiceless, you're useless. And so now you can take the juice wherever you can get it, and you're definitely going to get it from the fans here. On this defense again, when you look out there, so many new faces, as we've talked about. And, the work started kind of in minicamp and even before that with a lot of the guys on this defense. But when you see some of those plays, and there were a couple yesterday I mentioned where Tack came off the edge, and if that was a live situation, the quarterback and his cleats and the football likely would have been separated. But now you see the speed out there. And even a guy like Mac, I think Mac Wilson's one of those guys that, to my eye anyway, has transformed his body. He looks fast. The speed that's out there, is that fun for you to see and to think about what this can evolve to?
It is, and I'd take you to when you get into a practice where we're taking care of each other, so we don't take kill shots on our guys.
Of course
so there's
not.
You have to when you're watching the tape or when you're watching it live, you got to understand that Denzel had a great coverage play yesterday. He's in 3-deep coverage and could have made a play on one of our tight ends or down the seam, and he laid off. And that's such a smart play by that kid. Now it looks like the offense had a big play and everybody hoots and hollers on the offensive side, but you have to look at that as a coach and understand that we're both.
It's a former DB talking here as well. That's right. That's right.
We're both getting better. The offense is getting better. The defense is getting better because we're in position, but we're taking care of each other. So, yes, we're flying around on both sides, and we have to. And the other part of that is flying around and taking care of your teammates.
Coach, I'll get you out of here on this one. A delicate one, obviously, but are you going to have a conversation with Nick Chubb? He just did not come back in great shape. He just physically does not look like he's put in any time in the weight room. Are you going to have a conversation with Nick just to make sure that he's where he needs to be physically?
Yeah, I don't think you want me having the weight room conversation with Nick. I'll maybe Scott Peters.
I mean, he looks like
maybe one of the other
chiseled.
Coaches can have that conversation.
Incredible.
Yeah, no.
You heard what Marshawn Lynch said about him. I like the way that boy run.
So do I.
So do I. Coach, thank you so much.
We all do.
Yes, always a pleasure to have you in here, and we're looking forward to it. One of the things we're talking about, we're not even going to ask you because it's going to unveil itself at the time, but the evolution. What's going to happen on this offense? You say when we're stagnant, we're getting worse, so we know it's coming. We're excited to see that, but great to have you in this studio on campus. I like that. We're going to have to start using that, Beau. On campus here, the cross-country mortgage campus. Yeah. He's got the guy's got the 4 Ps.
Private school.
He's got it all.
That's
Private
right.
School. No doubt about it, Coach.
Great to be with you, boys.
Great to have you. And we will be back with more Cleveland Browns Daily right after this.
Imagine kicking back in the evenings in your very own hot tub. Now imagine actually being able to afford one. Northeast Factory Direct buys hot tubs by the truckload. Get a 6-person hot tub with the lounger and the lights. Still afford your summer activities. Think owning a hot tub would be a pain? It's not. Northeast Factory Direct's hot tubs come with exclusive hardtop coverage. You don't have to worry about safety or convenience. Looking for a way to stay active? They have these amazing swim spas as well. And right now, stop in and take your photo with Flat Alex for a chance to win a $500 gift card. Just take Northeast Factory Direct on Facebook or Instagram to be entered in the drawing. Check them out. I encourage you to do so in Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, or northeastfactorydirect.com. Lots of great stuff with Coach, and we'll get to around the league in a second. But look, this is fun, and I think that's the – I was thinking about you asked the question about the defense and stuff, and Joe Woods is in a situation not quite exactly to what Kevin Stefanski was in last year, but it's a little bit of here we go again for Joe Woods because he has a bunch of new faces. He's got a bunch of new faces, and he's got new guys. Now, they've had a traditional off-season or as traditional as it can be amidst everything that we're dealing with. So you do have the head start from that sense. But he is in install mode. Offensively, we are in go mode. And that's a tremendous difference, and I'm imagining that will lead to some fun once we start getting to some 11-on-11 work.
Yeah, I think that it most certainly will, and that's why most camps they say the defense is ahead of the offense, and in this one I would expect it to be the other way around, which I think is going to really help this defense ramp up more quickly because the talent is there. The talent is undeniable, and I think when you're getting tested against what is a well-oiled machine, it elevates your play. You've got to get better to keep up, and I think that's what we're going to see with this defense because there were plays, and what stands out now about this defense more than anything is the fact that there are specimens everywhere you look. And there was one play later in the practice in 11-11. Again, they're jogging in these where Malik McDowell just kind of shot through the line. And you're like, this is a mountain of a man. And Clowney is a ginormous man. And Malik Jackson's huge. And Miles is big. And Tack is so quick. And you got these linebackers flying around. And then the corners are so fast. You just realize it has a chance to be something special. And, it's funny. We're talking with Coach. And he is the head coach of the Browns. He's, frankly, the coach of the year in the National Football League. But you almost still think of him, though, on that offensive side, even though these are all my children, right? These are all his guys on both sides.
Sure.
But it's fun to talk to him. We started with the offense with him, which is natural, obviously, and then we get to the defense, and his eyes lit up in here talking about this defense because he knows, and I love the point, he's already got their back. Listen, that looked like an offense is going to hoot and holler on that, but we know better watching the tape. That was a good play by the defense there and shouting out Denzel Ward. I really think that this team has a chance to do something special, and I think the fact that the offense should be all on the same page earlier than the defense is, A, it's great for the offense's confidence, but B, it's going to raise the play of the defense. And I think a couple weeks into this thing, or even a week into this thing, we're going to have some real battles because the talent and the speed and the athleticism on that side of the football is undeniable. It jumps out at you when you're out there.
Oh gosh, yeah, and I think just to follow up on that, I talked about this yesterday a little bit. For the vast majority of you out there listening, and even us, what we're kind of predetermined to do when we watch football is to watch where the ball goes.
That's right.
We watch quarterbacks, and we watch where he throws it or where he hands it to, and we don't until you get a chance to look at the All-11 or the All-22. That's the first time where you have a chance to kind of see what's happening on the entire football field. So it's kind of built into us to pay closest attention to the offense. But rest assured, and to be very, very clear, if this team is a Super Bowl contender, and we believe that it is, if it is that, it will be because of this defense. Because this offense, I know exactly what this offense is going to be. Now, I don't know how it's going to go about its business, but I know that it will be one of the most efficient in the National Football League. I think it will be electric. I think it is one of the few offenses in this league that can beat you any way it wants.
That's right.
I think you want to go spread? Fine. Spread it out. You want to go tight? Fine. We can go 3 tight ends, and we can pound it with the 2 backs. There's not another offense in the league that has the ability to do what this offense does. And so I know what we're going to be offensively. We'll be better than we were last year, and last year we were really, really good. It's the defense. If the defense can be what the talent, you mentioned the specimens, We know the pedigree of the players on that side of the ball. If Joe Woods can get them to come together the way we did offensively after the bye week, if that can happen defensively, that's when you become something special. That's when you become a team that can not only win the division, win around, win the AFC, go to the Super Bowl. It will be on the defense, because I think the offense is a known commodity.
It is, and there are, as we talked about, we said we're not going to get into it on air with him because he's not going to tell us anyway, and I don't want him to. But what the evolution, that's
right.
What we're concerned about on offense is the evolution. How do we take something that is already wonderful and add that little, that certain je ne sais quoi to make it even better? That's the story for the offense. Defensively, it's how do we take all these awesome ingredients and make one heck of a meal together? That's what we're looking at, because the shopping's been done, and the shopping was choice.
Yes.
It was elite. So now it's about putting it together and seeing what it becomes. And you just can see, even though we're jogging and there's, we're not in pads or anything like that, but you can just see the athleticism and the explosion at the point of attack from certain players on this defense and the skill of these guys. When you're watching, out there and you've got Miles on one side, Clowney on the other, Billings who just eats up people, and then Malik Jackson, who is – I'm physically impressed by him. I guess I had no concept. Look, the guy's been to a Pro Bowl. He's the
guy. You remember
of course,
this?
we're like, who is that guy?
Like, wait,
yes.
Who is that human?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's Malik Jackson. And it makes sense. We hadn't seen him yet. But his ability to just kind of penetrate and get through, you can just see that there are things on this defense that are going to be special up front, and then on the back end with all the talent out there. And they're bringing Grant along slowly, but, John Johnson and Ronnie and Greedy. And Greedy's looked very good. And Denzel and Troy Hill and Newsome, and you're saying, and boy, it's just a lot.
It is. You mentioned the safeties. Did you see what John Johnson said about Ronnie today?
I didn't, because I was listening to Baker at that time. So please tell me.
I'm paraphrasing. I don't have the quote, but I'm paraphrasing. But the quote on Ronnie was, "He's a dude, and I don't know why he hasn't been paid. Like, that guy's a dude."
Well, he's on his rookie contract, but it's nice to. But he will be.
No, not necessarily coming at the Browns, but why an NFL team? Like, he is a guy.
He was traded.
Management needs to pay him. He was traded for nothing.
For a 5th-round pick with 2 years to go on his rookie contract.
For nothing.
Yeah. And that's the kind of guy, by the way. And we're lucky Herb wasn't there last year. There's no way he's sending a guy from Alabama that's a dude packing for nothing.
No.
0% chance.
No. Zero. We got him for nothing, and Johnson was very, very impressed with him. And
he is
it was
impressive.
One of those things, and you're dang right he is. And you go back to a year ago, and when he was on the field, it was noticeable. Like, immediately. Whoa. Everywhere around the ball, hands on the ball, flying around. He is somebody, and of course we love Delpit and John Johnson, we've talked about ad nauseum. And you and I have talked about Harrison a lot too. We did last year. We have 3 dudes back there who are pretty filthy when it comes to playing the safety position, and Harrison is certainly among them.
Last year, and this is no disrespect to, I thought Sheldon was phenomenal and is there and reliable, and we love Sheldon Richardson. OV played, especially the second half season, was great. But when you're talking about everybody out there at full strength playing at the peak of their powers, it felt like Ronnie Harrison was our 3rd best defensive player and certainly one of the top playmakers behind Miles and Denzel. That's how good he was. And you know what?
I agree.
His legs look thicker to me. He's another guy that just looks chiseled out of stone. He's running around. He is a dude. I think he is.
Yeah, he's a dude.
Ronnie Harrison, I think you said at the end of this year, if you said Ronnie Harrison, he's a Pro Bowler, wouldn't shock me in the least. Not in the least, because he's going to be freed up to make so many plays in this defense. We know he's good in coverage. He's an excellent blitzer. And you're going to have so many opportunities, I think, for our safeties to blitz in this defense, and so is Grant, by the way. I love Ronnie. I think I am so, obviously, we were robbed of a year of Grant Delpit, and we loved him so much. But if there is a silver lining that has a chance to become certainly even a gold lining or nay, platinum or even a diamond lining, if we're getting crazy, if there is such a thing, it's that you got Ronnie for a 5th-round pick. That's the thing that makes no sense to me at all. They had to feel some air of desperation from us.
Yes.
And yet, they gave away a good, young stud for Bubkus, as they say.
with a on a rookie deal
with 2 years left. It's not like it was his last year, and he just was like, you know what, I don't like being here. I'm not going to be back here, so let's get something for him while we can.
Trade me now.
Yeah, it's not an expiring contract.
There was no motivation for them to do it.
No.
I say that, and then I stop myself. There was motivation for them to do it. They did it to ensure that they would get Trevor Lawrence.
That's right.
That's what they did.
That's right.
And they knew that if Ronnie Harrison was still on that team, he would prevent them from doing that because he could win.
He could make a play that wins a game.
A couple of plays.
That's right.
He could make a couple of plays that win games, and so that's why they did it. And I guess in that sense it worked for them. But I guarantee if you asked Urban right now, do you wish you had Ronnie Harrison at safety? Yeah.
Or whoever it was they selected with that 5th-round pick. Would you rather have that guy or Ronnie Harrison right now?
Which one?
Yeah, give me Ronnie. That's going to be –
I think we know the answer to it.
And Ronnie is a guy that could end up being in one of those situations. If this team ends and does what we expect it to do this year, that's a tough decision at the end of the year. You've got Grant. But are you going to play enough 3 safeties to say, okay, we paid JJ 3, we're going to have Grant 2 more years on a rookie deal. Let's go ahead and also pay, Ronnie to keep him around because I think he's a stud, and I think the notion of having those guys makes this defense so formidable and so it gives you the ability to match up with anything an offense throws at you, while also on the flip side of that, in a way, dictating to the offense, what they're going to have to be looking out for, what they're going to have to do, and creating that post-snap confusion that Kurt Warner said is the key to playing defense in the modern National Football League.
Look at the first world problems we have. I mean, look what you're laying out. Like this is what happens, and this will be something for Browns fans that's going to be new because we haven't been in this situation before. But luckily it's not a problem for today or for this season, but it will be in the sense of we can't keep everybody. This is what used to be the off season of who are we going to draft, who can we sign to save us, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Who's going to win the starting receiver job? What it's going to be is who can we keep? We can't pay them all because we have a hard cap, so we can't pay everybody. Who can we keep? That is what our off seasons will be about going forward, because the amount of talent that's in the building right now is astronomical, and a lot of it deserves to be paid, but you can't pay all of it. So those will be the conversations for off seasons for Browns fans, not the ones that you've had for the last 20 years. And that's a big, big adjustment.
It's a huge adjustment, and it's the sign that your team is going in the right direction. And it's a sign that, look, we still have a lot to do. And I think that's the word, work, do. That's what we've got to do here is, live up to everything that we're talking about. But I can't wait for the fans to get out here, because you didn't get to see any of it last year, and it was a strange offseason to begin with. Now you're going to get the fans out here, and you guys are going to get to see exactly what we're talking about and see the talent that's out here on the field and the depth. When we go ahead and throw in a second team at some points, you're like, wait a second, this is our second unit, and it looks looks pretty darn good.
Look at DPJ yesterday.
That catch was ridiculous. That was a nice ball from Laletta. Laletta only got to throw a couple passes, and that was a nice one.
Good ball.
And DPJ made that a great catch. The athleticism, again, that's what's fun about this, is that we're not even really going to spend a ton of time talking, although I'm sure we will, about the stars. And we'll make sure Nick Chubb gets wind of your comments about his physical.
I just want to make sure that I don't know. I didn't see any proof that he put in enough work.
Right.
He's, Nick is a lot of talk, not a lot of action. I just want to make sure that he's put in the work.
Right. He's an all talk, buying his own hype
runs
type
his
of a
mouth
guy.
a lot.
Yeah.
Right. You just don't know if he's ever in the weight room. He's got so many other distractions.
By the way, how great is the Marshawn Lynch quote for Nick?
Of course.
And then again, Stefanski. Yeah, I like it. I like it too. It's so good. So much fun.
Folks, and he was, we talked about it. We'll get into Madden rankings. We have safeties and corners. We'll get to that. We go around the league coming up next. But, no, it's fun. And so you can have some fun with stuff like that. And when you are out here tomorrow, what I think is going to be hard if you're one of the people who gets to be out here, and God bless you, you will see some things that you'll watch practice. And my hunch is what will happen to you is what happened to Nathan and I at minicamp, which was you watch all this stuff and then you go, my God, I forgot to watch Jadeveon Clowney. You will have that experience because your eye will go to so many places that you will miss something that in an other year would have been all you watched.
Yeah.
but there's so much to watch that you will miss something just because you can't take it all in, because it is that awesome to see the amount of talent that's on the field.
And I realize it will be day 3 by the time the fans get here tomorrow, but I'm curious to see what people think of this team and where it is at that juncture. And what I mean by that is these do not look like early camp practices. And I realize that, the offense is returning its principal players, it's running the system, this, that, all of these things. But at the same time, it is an incredibly impressive, just the crispness of it, the business-like attitude of it. Yeah, there are celebrations where there's a big play on either side of the ball. You're going to see that. These guys genuinely enjoy each other and enjoy the process that they're going under for this. But what I think you're going to really see is a team that knows, and I think that's what came through to me. If I took one thing away from the Kareem Hunt interview yesterday, as a guy who was in Kansas City when they had real aspirations and were a very good football team, is the guys in the locker room know when they have it, okay? And they know the talent that's in that locker room. The guys in the locker room also know when the coaches have it, and they know these coaches have it. And so it's really there's a sense of responsibility to keep your body where it needs to be so that you are available and that you put in the work on the field, off the field, everything that needs to be done so that you go and put yourself and give yourself the best chance of executing at the level you're capable of, because these opportunities in this league do not come along all that often. And you got to take advantage of them.
No. And I think when you bring that point up about how it's going to look different for our fans, so prior to doing this show, I was at one Browns training camp practice ever. Only one. I was at one, and it was the one where Brock Osweiler was named the starting quarterback. And it was him and Kessler and Kaiser. And I remember looking, and that wasn't even the biggest issue. I mean, look at the receiver. There were just no pros. You went, where are the pros? Now we got pros in spades. You want pros? We got pros.
We got them.
Lots of them.
Lots
of dudes.
Yeah, lots of dudes.
There's a lot. Lots of dudes running around out there. We will go around the league. Kind of a surreal day yesterday. It continued today down in Houston. Just absolutely bonkers what's happening there. We have your Madden rankings for corner and safety as well. It's coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. fun. Let's go around the league. Gibby wants to know what's the biggest story on day one. Dak Prescott with a muscle strain in his shoulder. Randall Cobb back to Green Bay after that Rodgers presser.
Did you see the quote where
Deshaun Watson playing?
They said that wouldn't have that wasn't on their radar. That
would not have happened if not for Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, Aaron wanted it, so he did it. Okay.
Wow.
What a disaster. Deshaun Watson playing running back or Lamar Jackson testing positive for COVID. I think the biggest story in terms of just its effect on this season is Deshaun Watson and the circus in Houston. I think it's among the more surreal things I've ever seen in my life at an NFL camp, and it continued today. He was fourth today, again, in Houston on the depth chart at quarterback. It's just such an enormous distraction. I don't know how David Culley is going to be able to handle it. And the only reason I say that is because everything I'm reading out of Dallas on Dak is it's nothing to worry about. But the Deshaun stuff is surreal.
It's wild, and it just feels like they're saying, "Oh yeah, you don't want to play here. Well, we're going to make every second that you are here as miserable as possible." And who's benefiting from this? Is anybody benefiting from this?
Nobody. And you're undermining your own team because they see him there. You're undermining Tyrod Taylor. You're undermining your room. You're undermining your veterans are going, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? Your rookies. You're undermining everything that Culley's trying to do. Like, it's to me, from the betterment of their team, and I understand they're tanking this year, but even for if you still have to try to set culture. And how do you do that with a sideshow?
I don't know. Well, we have so many great friends down there that I very much look forward to maybe in the pregame of that game, picking some brains.
Oh, my gosh.
As to their thoughts on what has happened.
Money, Mitch, if you could do me a favor when you're down there. Well, I know Kirko, but Money Mitch is a great friend of the program, and his honesty is such that it cannot be turned off.
No.
So that will be somebody that when you see him on the field, and I wouldn't share it with anybody because – the sacred trust of friendship.
Of course.
But I would love if that was recorded. If I could hear his voice explain the absurdity, that would bring me great joy.
It just has to be so wild to think about as a player saying, okay, here's a megastar that we're acting like we're not allowing to play football. Now, don't you think you just say to him, let me ask you this. We won't fine you, but there's no point in having you here.
Of course.
So we will not fine you, but just don't be here. Because this is the fact that we're talking about
this isn't hard.
Everybody else is talking about. It's like, huh? Right.
This is not hard. You just go, look, we're not, and it takes pride swallowing from ownership. Like you're going to have to. And from Deshaun, frankly, you're going to have to say, look, we're trying to trade you. We're not going to give you away for nothing. We invested a lot in you. We're compensating you a lot. We drafted you high. You're the face of the franchise. We understand you don't like what we've done here. So while we are fine with – I'm sure you want out, fine. But you have to let us get the right value for you. And if that takes some time, then that takes some time. Now, in exchange for that, we don't need – you can't be here. Now, we won't fine you,
right?
But you can't be here.
Right. There's nothing good coming out of it. Nothing good.
Zero good coming. No, nothing. Absolutely. No, it's a mess.
I mean, the best part of their offseason is the Randall Cobb trade. They probably were going to cut him at $8.5 million, and now they only have to pay $3 million, and they got a pick for him.
Yeah. That was pretty surreal too.
Very.
And we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but Rodgers spoke for 32 minutes yesterday in Green Bay. He went for 5 minutes off the top and was clearly prepared. As I watched it through yesterday, it happened while we were on the show, so I could watch clips when we were on the show, but I wasn't able to see like all of it. And I watched it yesterday, last night, in kind of its entirety, and he very clearly. He had notes.
Oh, he was
prepared.
Yes.
There was a very straightforward agenda.
Yes.
At times, I think he was actually, it almost like he memorized maybe all of it.
Yes.
Is what it kind of seemed to me because he was talking really fast. And usually when you memorize things, you sometimes speed up just to get through it all. And it seemed like he almost had memorized everything he was going to say. And then to have the GM come out today and basically acknowledge that, yeah, well, we wouldn't have had Randall Cobb if it wasn't for Aaron. That I think what they were hoping for, yesterday in Green Bay was, like this is now behind us. No, I don't think that it is. I don't think it is by a long stretch. And just to follow up on one point Rodgers made where he said, it's not about coming to Green Bay, it's about coming and playing with me and because we're winning. He's 100% right. Green Bay forgets that they've had 30 years of Favre and Rodgers. They don't remember Lynn Dickey. They don't remember Don Majkowski. It's been a long time since they've been irrelevant as a franchise.
Yeah.
The Magic Man with Sterling Sharp. They're actually pretty good a couple years. But it's been a long time since that franchise has been irrelevant because they've gone Favre-Rodgers. No one's done that. No one's got a 30-year run like that where they've been relevant the entire time. So they seem to think like, it doesn't matter who the quarterback. No, it does. It does matter who
more
the
than
quarterback is.
anything.
All that matters is who the quarterback is. More than anything. Look at Buffalo. Look at us for years trying to find an answer at quarterback. It's hard work finding the guy. They haven't had to look for one in 30 years.
And they would have to, much like we did, and much like Buffalo in its down period did, they would have been an organization that would have found we have to overpay to get anybody to come here or to even think about coming here. And that's something that they had not had to deal with previously, and it's something that they have no concept of what that actually would be like, but that's something that they would have to get very familiar with very quickly because, honestly, that's just the way that it would be for them. They would be like a small market, not necessarily the best town you've ever been in, trying to make their way through, and I don't think it would have been nearly as easy as perhaps they think it would have been.
Agreed. I very much agree. A couple other things from the NFL. 87.9% of NFL players now have been vaccinated with at least one shot. 19 clubs have more than 90% of their players vaccinated. 7 clubs have more than 95% of their players vaccinated on that front. As we mentioned, the Madden rankings continue to come out. That game must drop sometime next week.
It's got to be.
Because I think about the only thing – I think it seems like about the only thing left to be unveiled is like quarterbacks and maybe offensive line. It feels like everything else is out there. So they did DBs, top 10 DBs, top 10 corners and safeties. We did have Denzel Ward, number 8 on the corners list as an 89. We did not have a safety on the list. No John Johnson on the list. Actually, there's quite a bit of disrespect. They have Micah Fitzpatrick, number 10, at like an 89, which I thought was a little low for him.
Seems
for as
very
good as he
low.
is. Jesse Bates was the highest rated. Bates was a 91. He was the highest rated in our division.
Wow. A lot of people like him. I think we have a very good division when it comes to safeties, probably with the exception of the Ravens, who have some of the best corners in the league, let alone the division, as Marlon Humphrey is being regarded as one of the top probably handful of corners in the league, period. Where's Marlon Humphrey coming on that cornerback ranking? 5, which, that's been the consensus on him.
Jalen's a 99.
99 for Jalen Ramsey. Yeah.
Jalen Ramsey, 99. Stephon Gilmore, 97. Jair Alexander was a 95. Tre'Davious White, 93. Marlon Humphrey, 92.
Yeah, that's 92. Pretty much – that's kind of the
and
consensus.
Tyrann Mathieu was the number 1 safety.
Honey Badger. Tremendous player.
Yeah.
He brought – he was –
Yes.
When I think back of that Kansas City game, we talked about the speed and the openings that it created for their offense against us. The other thing that stood out in that game was just how great the Honey Badger is and how – John Johnson hopefully is coming here to do that for us along with Ronnie and Grant, but that we can get dynamic game-changing safety play as well, and I think that's a big deal in this NFL, a very big deal.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. The NBA draft is tonight really quickly. The Cavs are picking at number 3. Gibby asks, who do you want the Cavs to take, big man or guard? I want them to take Jalen Suggs. And I know they're probably going to take Evan Mobley. I'd take Jalen Suggs, the guard out of Gonzaga, and forget about it. I don't care if he doesn't fit with the other 2 guards.
So are you making a move there? Are you making a trade? Because you're not going to put those 3 guys on the floor together.
I just I get him. I get him. He's probably going to go 4th. So if somebody wants Mobley, let him come get him. But I would get Suggs. To me, he's ready to go. And I think he's got everything you want in the modern NBA. I think he can get a shot whenever he wants. Everyone says he doesn't have the athleticism of Green and whoever, and I'm thinking he was Urban Meyer offered him a scholarship to play quarterback at Ohio State. He doesn't lack for athleticism.
Isn't he he reminds me a little bit of like a Darren Williams, who's a darn good NBA player, and
oh yeah,
I think that it feels like a pretty good fit. I just think the rosters.
I think he's a little more. I think he's a little more end zone to end zone than
physical.
Darren was. He's faster than Williams was. Yeah, faster. I think probably. Yeah, but I like that comp. That's fine, and you'd take that.
Of course you would.
I'm not sure either of the other two guys are that.
The problem is the roster composition as it is now. And you can't just draft. You got to get the best players, not draft for need. But they're not. I almost feel like they're not even constructed for today's game. It's a very odd way that they have chosen to construct that basketball team.
Yeah, I agree. Gibby says we needed a Ohio Lottery Keep It Fun poll. Should we do which Browns player was most disrespected by the Madden rankings?
I like that.
So who are your top three? Who's top three? John Johnson?
Kareem Hunt. Do we know anybody else who's been the victim of great disrespect?
I mean, those are the two that jump out the most to me.
We haven't seen the full offensive line, have we? Teller supposedly whatever.
We have not seen the full.
And he's high. Teller's very, very high. He has a very good rating.
Very
Sources.
high.
Pay attention, scores.
Yeah. So I think the other one you could the problem is if you put Nick Chubb in, and even though he's the third-ranked running back, he's going to win in a landslide. He would be the other one that you would say.
Let's just put those two. Let's have it be those two. Those are two prominent players.
Yeah, I like those two, Gib. Yeah, we don't need three. Let's go two. Which Browns player was most disrespected by their Madden rankings? John Johnson and Kareem Hunt.
Yep.
So we'll do that. Coming up after this quick timeout, you will hear from Baker Mayfield. He was at the podium today. Lots of good stuff from 6. That is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, second hour here on Cleveland Browns Daily. Beau Bishop here for my great friends at EOX Vantage. EOX Vantage connects core systems that don't talk. From reporting and analytics to insight and decision-making, gain a more complete real-time picture of your business. You can eliminate Excel nightmares from business processes and visualize your important data in one place. You gain insight to make data-driven decisions on performance through role-based visualization dashboards. With EOX Vantage, you can benefit from lower overall costs, better alignment between technology and business needs, scalability, ease of deployment, and management. EOX Vantage makes your data work smarter, so move your business forward. Look, you're about growth. Your software should be too. With EOX Vantage, your company will scale effortlessly. Local presence but global footprint, trusted by some of the world's biggest brands, and a 2021 Cleveland Plain Dealer Top Workplaces winner. Head to www.eoxvantage.com for more. Your quarterback, Baker Mayfield, at the podium. Let's have a listen.
How nice is
You're down.
know everyone?
It's pretty nice. Yeah, it's the first time in my career had all 11 starters come back, and obviously some key role players as well. Yeah, it's good to know, having the same system and everything, but just building that chemistry, and as the more reps we get, the more experience we have together. We're truly enjoying going through this process and working together.
How further down the line is the starting point compared to last year? Because you've had the year in the system, you know everyone on your side of the football. Just how farther in the progression, getting ready for the season, are you than maybe at this point a year ago?
Yeah, I mean, first I'd like to say, last year none of that matters, none of the success or, not playing well matters. We have to have a fresh start, but we're much farther along because everybody's not learning it for the first time, and that's the key part is. But you have to focus on, reteaching yourselves the fundamentals and the basic details of these concepts, and that's where you don't want to take that for granted. You want to teach all the basics and the fundamentals first off, so you can, just refresh your memory and hit the ground running.
Baker, how did it feel to have all your weapons out there yesterday? Jarvis, Odell, everybody again.
Felt great. I mean, everybody looks good, and yeah, it's just. Like I said, when you're able to have those same guys come back and you're speaking the same terms and the same terminology, it's just it makes it a lot more enjoyable. You know how to push those guys. You know that we can say, hey, based on this rep, remember when we did this in this game? Hey, let's change it up this time, or hey, do the same thing you did last time. So it's fun to see those guys working and competing together.
I don't know that you've ever had this kind of continuity, maybe in your playing career. When you talk about scheme, coaching staff, personnel, what is that going to do for you in terms of building off the way you finished last season?
I think it's going to make us even better at our bread and butter stuff. I think we have to have a true identity rolling into this year to where we can grow as the season goes on. You don't want to peak early. You want to be good, but you want to continue to get better each week. And I think that continuity is going to help us with that.
Question about your growth as a quarterback. Would you liken going into your fourth year as a Brown starter to college? I mean, you had two teams, but I think if I recall, you had 4 years. Was it like maybe that then was a quantum leap, and here the progress is more gradual, or are there some real similarities in growing in your 4 years as a college starter and your fourth year as a Brown starter?
Yeah, I think it's similar, but not exactly relatable. I think when it comes to the college stuff, you grow in. I had the same system and the same coaches, so that was the growth was within that system. And here it's been chemistry with these guys and a lot of the same faces, but we haven't had the same system the whole time. So I think now I'm truly hoping to make a huge jump of taking care of the ball and being efficient.
I mean, just looking at different QBs and researching them where they were from the third to fourth year. But one, like Drew Brees, I don't know if you ever noticed this, but in his third year, he had what you'd probably call a bad year before his career took off. But do you feel like you reached a good place in your third year and you're in a much better place now, or is it way too say you're in a much better place as camp is just beginning?
I can play a whole lot better than last year. I know that. I'm trying to improve each year. And when it comes to looking at other guys in third to fourth years, I don't compare myself to anybody. I try and be the best version of me, and I think that's what we try and stress in this building is it matters what goes on. If you're getting better, the team's getting better, and we're pushing each other, and do your job first and foremost.
Jarvis said yesterday that I think he got lighter in the offseason because he's able to train a way he wasn't the year before. Can you tell that when you're watching him run around?
Yeah, he looks extremely explosive, and I know he told you guys. I mean, he feels more comfortable. Obviously, a little bit healthier rolling into this year, and he's touched on that. But mentally, physically, he looks great, and you can tell just the pep in his step right now.
And he said last year was the hardest for him because he was coming off the hip and he had other stuff going on, the broken ribs. How impressive was it he played through that, and could you ever tell that he wasn't quite himself?
Early in the week, yeah, he had his old man Jarvis walk going on, but he's a tough guy that he wants to put the team first always. So he was laying on the line each week, and that's why we appreciate Jarvis so much around here.
Baker, what can you do as a leader of the team to keep the expectations from getting in guys' heads, from getting caught up in the outside noise? I know it's easy to say that you're going to block it out, and doing so can be more difficult.
Yeah, I think it's, like you said, way easier said than done, but especially when you have the TVs on, all the talk shows are on. But it comes down to, I touched on a little bit over here in an earlier question, doing your job first and foremost. If you're not doing your job, then you might be distracted. You might be trying to do too much. You might be listening, and good or bad stuff on the outside, you never want to listen to it. You never want to get too high, never want to get too low, and I think that's something that I've tried to emphasize in my daily routine, and so I try and stress that with these guys, and that's my job, is to be the leader for these guys and stress that.
When it comes to, we've talked about you in this offense multiple years now. Do you feel more comfortable taking ownership of it and being like a teacher out there? I mean, we see you talking to guys between reps, things like that. Do you feel more comfortable now that you know the offense better?
Absolutely. I think, like I said, now going into the second training camp in this system and knowing the ins and outs and the little nuances that are so important, of being able to overemphasize those. And just because I might think that somebody knows the little details, over-communicate, because I think that's the most important part right now is, like I said, yeah, it's continuity. Everybody's saying same system, same people, but you have to emphasize those little details over and over. But I'm definitely a lot more comfortable to do that this year.
The work that Odell did this offseason to get himself back, and as quickly as he did, everyone talked about how after he got hurt, the offense took off and things seemed to run smoother. He mentioned over the weekend how excited he is to get back on the field with you and really establish that natural chemistry. So what do you guys do during this camp to move that ahead and really find that natural rhythm between you two?
Well, first I'd say that normal people and normal athletes don't come back from an injury like that as quickly as he did. So I mean, it's hats off to him. He obviously worked his tail off to get to where he's at right now. And when it comes down to the chemistry stuff, it's every rep matters for us. But then just the terminology and speaking outside the building, not just about football, that goes such a long way when it comes to chemistry and that trust factor. And we've made huge strides, and I know he feels the same way.
Case has said that when he's played with big-time wide receivers before, it takes a little bit of time, and then when it finally comes together, it's even better than it would have been if it came easily right away because you guys had to work through it. Is that now you're in year 3 with Odell? I mean, what are some reasons why beyond your time together that this could finally take off and be the connection? I think everybody thought it was going to be when you guys traded him.
Yeah, I mean, I think year 1 we're just trying to get used to each other. Last year, didn't have a full season by any means because of the injury, and it's just this year I think we've had our backs up against the wall, the two of us together, and I think we can relate a lot on those types of things. But yeah, you're right. Having success is always sweeter when it's not just handed to you. It's not the easy road when you hit adversity and you have to battle through it. And I think that's just the way of life too.
What was your relationship like when it started last year with Stefanski coming in on the fly and the COVID mess and all that, as compared to now, your relationship with him now?
Yeah, I actually know what he looks like now instead of the mask. So it's just different. We weren't able to be in person for these meetings, and having in person the first full offensive meeting together, on the report date. That type of thing is something that we didn't realize, but we took it for granted, and I don't think we will now, being able to be all together and do that. So when it comes down to being with Kevin and being able to have those conversations, there's a lot more communication going on now than there was last year. Not that we were lacking any, but it's just a lot more accessible now.
Baker, when you go back and watch games from the second half of last season, or even think about it, I know you mentioned being more comfortable in the system after the bye week, but what else stands out about your performance saying, hey, I liked what I did here, I can build off of this?
I think where I was going with the ball, taking care of it first and foremost, but just progression, listening to my feet, and trusting everybody on the field, not trying to predetermine where I'm throwing the ball based on coverage, just reacting and going through that and just distributing the ball to our skill makers or skill players, because we have a great group. And so my job is not to try and do too much or control the game. It's to get this ball out and into their hands.
Baker, you said during minicamp that one of the things you want the offense to work on was improved efficiency on third and fourth downs.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything outside of just pretending you're in those situations in practice that you can do to work on that?
Yeah, I think you have to have a lot of simulated experiences when it comes to like the third down practices, fourth down, those periods where you emphasize it. But then also in these meetings of emphasizing the importance of, mentality-wise, how you want to attack those down and distances. Situationally, what is a defense trying to do to stop you? Do you have any tendencies? Do they have tendencies? How do you play on those? And so I think it's just that football IQ and expanding that helps overall, and that's something that we're definitely going to emphasize this year so we can, have early success.
Baker, I think maybe we take the offensive line for granted. I know that you don't. What does that chemistry mean? I know it's one thing to connect with your wide receivers over the last couple of years, but what does that connection mean to have those same guys in front of you?
Yeah, those are my guys, and obviously we had quite a bit of rotation as well. Some guys step up in big ways last year, and so having all those faces back, it's extremely important. Terminology-wise in the run game, we're only going to continue to improve just because those guys are speaking the same terms to each other. They've worked with each other. They know the steps and how they play off of certain blocks and double teams like that, and so it's just so important. And in pass protection with JC up front, obviously he's so smart to be able to ID stuff and get us in the right calls. And if I see something else, just having that open line of communication and trust where we played with each other. There's nothing's going to offend each other, so we're going to have that open communication and talk. But yeah, they're outstanding, and Coach Callahan does a great job of getting these guys ready each year.
Baker, your thoughts on Oklahoma linking up with Texas to go to the SEC and lead the Big 12?
It's a tricky question, Jake. It's the hardest one of the day. It's different.
30.
I think it's going to help our university for sure. I think not that you get bored with success, but I think it's a new challenge and something else that's going to continue to improve. And I think the college game was already changing when it came down to the NIL stuff and whatnot, and expanding the playoffs. So I think it's the correct move. Happens in the next couple of years, but I think it's going to be great for the university overall.
You're up.
A lot of good stuff there from Six as he goes in, and I think Z, I think one thing that our fans will notice, and it was obvious as you watched yesterday, and just the clips I saw as well and we saw it in camp, we saw it in minicamp where, and somebody asked him the question in regards to being more demonstrative in telling people where to be. We saw that in the minicamp as well, where if someone wasn't exactly where they needed to be, and in this offense you need to be exactly where you're supposed to be. And when they weren't, he was quick to just go change it. And I don't know that he does that a year ago because he's still learning the offense. Well, now he knows it. He knows it like the back of his hand, and so he feels that type of confidence. And we asked Jake when we had him on, or I want to say it was earlier in the week, and you have to go back to, really his, junior year at Oklahoma, where he had the same head coach and same offense and same play caller. It's been that long since he's had true continuity in his offensive mind.
Yeah, and it's clearly something that gives him a lot of comfort. And I think one thing that I took away from this, just standing there watching him do this press conference, listening to it back again, is this is just in every sense of the word, a mature Baker Mayfield, a comfortable, confident Baker Mayfield who is very much at peace with where he is with this offense, where he is as a leader of this football team. He's entering his fourth year. I mean, I think it was a truly professional, consummate professional leader press conference that you got right there. And the play that you saw on the field yesterday was that of a leader, unquestioned, number one, overall pick, stud quarterback, ripping the ball confidently. And I think that's exactly what you want out of that position, and you're getting it. And it's no surprise. People evolve. Guys evolve in this league as they go through their careers. And this is the first time that Baker Mayfield hasn't had to worry about a new offense, a new terminology, new verbiage, new players around him. He's just able to work on being, as he said, the best version of himself that he can be, and I think we're seeing that. And I think that's a great thing for all of us.
I think nationally with him, because he is so known and he is such a lightning rod, and he is so willing to play along with people on shows where we have debates, that he is an easy target. And typically, when anybody has any doubts about us, it is about him, and he faces a lot of criticism that comes with that, and I think a lot of it unjustly based on the actual proof of what we saw on the field last year. But the big thing that I think isn't happening, and I don't know it hasn't been, but so few people have talked about what he has overcome.
Yep.
There is a lot of talk about all of the things that he has struggled with early last season or even the previous season. There is very little talk about what he's overcome, and I'm here to tell you that what Baker Mayfield has been through as a professional quarterback in terms of coaching change, offensive change, just discombobulation in the offensive plan, the organization, to get to where we were last year and where we are now, would break most quarterbacks. Would break them.
Yes.
They wouldn't still be on the team.
Yes.
They'd be somewhere else. They would be gone. His mental toughness is off the charts, and he deserves a great deal of credit for being the player that he is now, having gotten through that, and not enough people talk about that.
I couldn't agree anymore. And that is, he's, as he said, he's been forged in a lot of fires, and he is ready for this. He is ready for this moment. I think that's one of the great things about this team is that it's a collection of a lot of people whose names from programs and schools who are used to these kinds of expectations, who are used to intense scrutiny, and who have gotten through it. But, I don't think that there has nearly been enough where, for all the criticism he has received, there has not been an equal amount of just acknowledgement. It doesn't even mean you have to excuse some of the things, but
you have to praise it.
The acknowledgement of the fact that he has gone through incredibly difficult circumstances. And I think you go back to what he said at the podium at the Combine, I'm the guy to do this. Probably knowing but not knowing just how much would be thrown at him, how much turnover he would deal with, how much change, and the fact that he's hitting that fourth year and his maturity with the same staff, with a coach and a leadership team that is absolutely ready to take that next step with him is just it's a special thing. And it's something that you make a great point. It shouldn't be lost on everybody who watches this team and cares about this team.
No, I would agree. And it's great to hear from him. Great to have him be the quarterback of your Cleveland Browns. Coming up next, you will hear from John Johnson. Great to have him, by the way. Very great to have him on this team. He addressed the media earlier today. We'll have some of that, get some observations of practice number 2. That is coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. If your game plan for the season includes buying or selling a home, Howard Hanna Real Estate Services has you covered. Visit howardhanna.com/Go Browns today. Team back on the field today. Z, you were able to sneak out there a little bit, but it's obviously very early. Any notes early on here on practice day number 2?
Just Hollywood Higgins won't be practicing today. We heard Coach Stefanski say that in his immediate availability earlier. Rolled his ankle. Greedy, good to go. As they always do, started with a little special teams, and they're going to get into the individual, positional practice periods, and then we'll get rolling. We'll see if we amp anything up in the 11-on-11s. My guess is we won't. I think that could come tomorrow or Saturday after a couple days here, and I think the 7-on-7s will remain, the most spirited and competitive parts. I will say, just kind of looking outside, though, the sky does seem to be darkening a little bit.
Dark.
And we'll see if we can hopefully stave off and avoid some rain out there today. Yeah,
it does. It does look a little dark, so we will see how that goes. And better today than tomorrow, when many of you and some of the lucky few of you will be able to get in there and watch this team, and we look forward to that. One of the guys you will notice is number 43. He is John Johnson III. He is an absolute dude, and not just for his play on the field, but for the way he carries himself off. It's going to be one of the real leaders of this team. Here was his first availability in this preseason training camp. Here's John Johnson at the podium.
You're down.
Grant so far and how he's been able to come back and then work with Ronnie as well.
Oh, yeah. Both of those guys are smart players. Like, everyone knows that they can do everything. You can move them all around, versatile athletes. But, I think the thing is just the work ethic. Grant shook back from that injury. He's going to be a big part of the defense this year. And Ronnie is just exceptional. I don't know how a team didn't, lock him in for a long time. But, hopefully that'll happen. And we're just going to go out there and have fun. Hopefully all three of us can put in a lot of work for the team.
What's it like coming to a new team, but also having to be a bit of a leader? You just got here, but right. You got to take charge a little bit.
Yeah, it's a little different. At my previous spot, I was a leader, but I was like always younger. And now I'm like the second oldest guy, and the first oldest guy is Troy Hill. He came from the Rams as well. So it's kind of like you said, we are the leaders. I'm just trying to set a good example, do things the right way. I've had success in the past, so I'm just trying to bring whatever I did positive here and let everybody else, I want it to be contagious.
Going off of that, you've got all of these new guys here, the rookies, and there's going to be a lot of position battles. How do you approach that as a leader and also as yourself new on this team? What's the mentality going into that?
Everyone has to prepare like a starter. There's going to be a depth chart. There's going to be starters, week 1, but that might change by week 5, so everyone just got to work hard, push each other to be the best that they can be. And if you're the best version of yourself, ultimately the starters may be the starters for a little bit, but it can always change. So if we all prepare like starters and push ourselves, it'll all work out.
Is there anyone specifically that you've had conversations with, maybe one of the rookies or one of the new guys?
Not a specific conversation, but I think it's just like setting the tone. Like, if you don't put your best work out there, you can be replaced. So it's all about production in this league, and that's what we're going to do.
From a scheme standpoint, how similar is this defense to the one you played with Coach Staley in Los Angeles?
It's a little different than Coach Staley's defense, but it is similar to Wade Phillips' defense my first 3 years. I know him and Joe were together, I think, in Denver. So very similar to my first 3 years. I'm used to it, kind of things I got to dust off, because Staley's defense is kind of like a too-high shell, catching stuff from depth, and this is kind of like attack in your face. So it's just back to what I did the first 3 years, honestly.
Are you kind of taking inventory of how it compares with the Rams, given that you guys were number 1 last year?
Right. When I first got drafted, I made a comparison. When I first got signed here, I made a comparison. I said, I'm going from Aaron Donald to Myles Garrett, Jalen Ramsey to Denzel Ward. So, when you got guys that can rush and guys that can cover, you're going to make a pretty good defense. So we just got to hone in on the techniques and fundamentals, tackle really well, and I think, we could duplicate what we did last year.
Myles is pretty freaky, isn't
he? Yeah, he is. He's like a Power Ranger. He's like a machine.
John, what about just the idea that there are so many new faces? Is there something to gelling and being ready in time, for week 1? May it take longer than that? What's your thought on that kind of talk?
I don't think it'll take long. I do think it requires, more effort. We got to build that chemistry, whether it's on the field, off the field, locker room, just around the facility. Get to know guys. The teams that, do the best in the end are the teams that are the most connected teams. So I can just remember that Super Bowl year with the Rams. We were like we were bonding. Everything we were clicking. Even offense, defense, special teams. Everyone did everything together. So I think if we can get that here, we can have a lot of success.
Is there a line you walk in that, like, I'm the new guy, but I should also be a leader? Like, is it awkward, I guess, maybe would be a decent word?
I wouldn't say awkward, but I think you got to earn your stripes. Definitely got to earn your stripes. You know, when I first got here, I was myself, but I didn't really say too much. Now I'm a little more comfortable. But I think you definitely got to earn your stripes, and that comes on the field. It's the true meritocracy. You got to really earn it each and every day.
As you get to know these guys and become familiar with them, and I know you just said something about Miles, but is there anybody who's really stood out that has kind of grabbed your attention, made you think this guy's going to make a difference for us?
It's hard to pick one, but I can just say Anthony Walker has stood out to me. You know, he's the signal caller for us. He's going to be a big part of this defense, and you know, we live close by each other. We talk about ball all the time. The previous place he was at, they had a lot of success on defense, so he really stands out to me.
Come back.
He's in the middle. Everyone goes through him, and it'll trickle down amongst everybody else. So,
you ready? Yep. You're up.
All right, good stuff from John Johnson there from his first availability and some of the development that's going to happen on the back end of that secondary, and that praise for Ronnie Harrison that we talked about earlier, also Grant as well, and Miles, and going to be part of a very special defense. And we talked about this before signing him, and I know we have a couple of notes you want to get to, but there is I really think he's got a chance, and you and I talked about this, Z, that he's got a chance to be a superstar here, that's in play.
It is in play, and again, it's wild to say that coming into Cleveland from Los Angeles is going to be the transition that he needed to really put himself on the map. But I think it is. And I think you know how this city is, and I think the attention that this football team is going to get is going to be massive. And I think he's going to be a huge part of this. I think, you know, John Johnson in a division with some good safeties with Minka and Jesse Bates we talked about earlier has a chance, you know, to go and try to be a Pro Bowler, be all pro. All of those things are in play as kind of, you know, the back end general of this defense, and not surprising to hear a veteran like him heap praise on Anthony Walker Jr. I've heard nothing but great things about him, his approach. He's in tremendous condition when you see him out there. I mean, he's like the linebacker equivalent of Nick Chubb is really kind of the way that he is built. And, you know, he's going to be the quarterback of this defense there, and a guy who's done that very effectively for very good Indianapolis Colts defenses. And, you know, we don't have to remind you of what Darius Leonard said about him on the way out.
Right. And you'll notice him because he's wearing number 4.
Yes.
Which is a pretty remarkable thing to see a linebacker wearing number 4, but that is the number change that happened there with Anthony Walker. You were just able to step out, Z, in terms of what you saw as practice number 2 gets going on. What caught your attention?
Yeah, they're into kind of the individual drills, going through that, working on some special teams again, still in the return game. A couple guys off to the side. I couldn't notice all of them, but I'm sure there'll be updates for you as we go. Some veterans were expected to get a little bit of a break today, so it probably wouldn't surprise me at all if a guy like, for example, Chris Hubbard, you know, were to get some time today. But haven't seen exactly who was off on the side. But I did see
Odell and Delpit were off on bikes today.
Yeah, that would make sense. Odell, Delpit. I saw Hollywood Higgins over there. JoJo Natson, I believe I saw as well, but I'll confirm that when I go back out there. Because they're practicing on the far field, and those guys are as far left as you can go from kind of our vantage point when we kind of walk out onto that terrace. So it is far out there, but again, a lot of participation, a lot of energy. And what I think something people are going to notice, and, you know, you've never gotten to see a Kevin Stefanski training camp practice or practice really for our fans. Not a second's wasted. The efficiency of everything and how many things are going on simultaneously in different spots is kind of incredible to watch.
It is, yeah, and it contributes to you missing things because it's like an 8-ring circus, that there is very little idle time, if any. It's one thing to the next, and he's out in these short bursts. These practices are short. They're short bursts, but they maximize time. He is all about efficiency, and that's what his practices feel like, incredibly efficient. This is a long stretch, guys, and I think one thing, while we've talked a lot about how excited we are for you to see this team, I think it's fair to say, and I asked the question to Coach Stefanski, that this team is going to be equally excited to see you. Because when you are in the doldrums of camp, there is a juice that is provided by fans. And we remember a couple of years ago, Kurt yelling dog check back and forth to to the fans in the stands and you giving it back, you get something out of that as an athlete. Because what these guys are is more than anything, they're performers. They're pro football players, but they are performers. They are entertainers. And when there is an audience, they rise up a little bit. There is a juice that the crowd provides. And Stefanski acknowledged that when I asked him that question earlier. So while I'm sure that many of you, whoever gets in here tomorrow, is going to be very, very excited to see this team, I understand that they will be just as excited to see you.
Yes, and a lot of the guys I've talked to already who have, gotten a taste of what happened, last year with 6,000, 12,000, they're ecstatic. And the guys who know what it's like to have a training camp here in Berea, they can't wait to get everybody back. So that is an exciting thing there to see back. Couple of notes, yes, Odell is off to the side today. Demetric Felton, who was with the running backs yesterday, is at least in individual drills right now with the wide receivers today. He's a guy that I think has a very good shot at making this roster because he's a three-function guy. He can be running back. He can be a receiver.
3 boxes, right?
Yeah, he checks a lot of boxes. And then I think he's going to be on special teams, whether it's gunner, returner, whatever. He's committed to doing whatever it takes on special teams to earn the trust of Mike Prefer. And that versatility and his shiftiness is something that I don't think can be overlooked.
No, and I think that he's one of those few guys that are out there that, there aren't that many spots. We talk about that in the whole lead-up, and I'm sure that's been a reality for you when you look out there and you say, what do we got, 90 guys out there? Something like that?
Yep.
Out there, and you're gonna have to cut that thing down almost in half. And you look around and you go, we're gonna cut a lot of people who can play. And the reality of that is the bottom few positions on our roster that actually are up for grabs, it's going to be a tooth and nail, and it's going to be every day you better be accountable or you could get missed.
And that's what I think makes this exciting and gives some intrigue to a camp that otherwise wouldn't necessarily have a ton of intrigue, right? It's intrigue about some of these battles, who's going to make it, who are they going to invest in, what's that going to look like, what quality players will not have a spot on this football team. And we heard Coach, we talked about Mac with him, but in his presser afterwards, Coach singled out Mac Wilson as a guy that I think a lot of people, when I overheard some people talking at practice yesterday, had kind of written off. And I think it was premature. He's had a tremendous offseason. He's got to keep it going. But Mac is, another one of those guys that has a lot of talent. And that's the thing. There's so much talent here. And when you have a great coaching staff to develop that talent, special things can happen. And I think it's going to be interesting to see, some of those battles. That's some of the intrigue. By the way, should note, Derek Willie's back at practice today after not practicing yesterday on his way back from knee surgery. And, is Derek a long shot to make this team? Of course he is. But at the same time, Derek Willies is also a guy that is unique in that receiver room because he stands 6'4", 6'5", and there isn't another receiver close to that. So he's got, some opportunity to make an impression from that regard.
Yeah, I want to go back to Mac for a second because you've been talking about him for a long time. You've actually seen him several times physically, and obviously I saw him at minicamp. But he is somebody who that can go a lot of different ways, right? When they draft your position and they sign free agents to your position, and it can cause your attitude to lead you in a lot of different ways. Not for Mac Wilson. Mac Wilson viewed it very simply as I'll be better, and he looks great. He looks absolutely exceptional. And let's remember how good he was 2 years ago in this defense and the immediate impact, the way he had a nose for the ball. When Joe Schobert was here and he was the rookie, and Schobert was helping him along as he was learning the defense in real time, frankly, his impact was immediately felt on this team. And let's remember who he was. Again, like a lot of this roster, 5-star kid out of high school, big-time player at Alabama. So let's remember who he is, and I think there's a little bit of serving notice. And it's good to hear Coach say that. You and you've talked about it a lot, and you've been more adamant than me just because you've seen him more. But it looks like he's coming ready to fight for everything that's on the line for him.
And there are a lot. I think that's what's special about the depth that you have too, is that the motivation and the competition. That's what they always talk about wanting to drive, competition. We want competition at every spot. Well, when you have a bunch of dudes in one room, when there are more dudes than there are spots on the roster, you're going to get competition. You're going to get the best out of people fighting to stay in this league. And more importantly, they want to stay on this team. Yes, of course they want to be in the NFL, but right now there's a feeling that I want to be a Cleveland Brown. And that's not something to be, A, taken lightly, and B, it's something we need to enjoy and cherish while that is the case. And we hope that's the case for a long time because of the foundation that's been built here and the leadership in charge, both on the field and in the front office.
Yeah, that's it. And you get the feeling, and you talk that. I remember it reminds me of something Jarvis said yesterday when he said he was asked. Somebody asked him, "Is this the best team you've ever been on?" And he said something to the effect of, "By far, by far." It's a long, hard road, but by far. And there are guys who you look, man. In this league, you face your football mortality every season. You face it, and there are more people coming in ready to take your spot. And when you get in a special place. And I think we're at a point now where it's pretty obvious this is a very special place and a special time to be a Cleveland Brown. And it's not lost on any of these guys what it would mean to win here. It's not. They're very well aware. And they haven't even been able to experience, a full First Energy Stadium and what that represents. So imagine when that starts to happen as we get into fall. But this is a special time to be a Cleveland Brown, and they're fighting like hell to make sure they're a part of it. And the bottom of the roster, I mean, what did we end up with, Z? Was 5 or 6 spots?
Yep. Yeah. That's it. That's it. You could say maybe there's a spot up for grab in the safety room. Maybe there's a spot up for grab, in the defensive tackle room, defensive end, linebacker. So, we're talking about your 6th linebacker. We're talking about your 5th, 6th linebackers. Right. Offensively, it's, your 9th and 10th 8, 9, 10 offensive linemen, depending on how many you keep. Potentially 3rd, 4th running back. Potentially, and that could also be /6th receiver if that's all one spot. That's it. There you go. That's it. That's what's up for grabs.
So that's it. There's not a whole lot out here. Get you some final observations from practice number 2. Set the table for tomorrow's show as well. In other words, so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, Z, a couple of things in terms of out there on the field. I'm seeing Ellis Williams and others of Cleveland.com reporting that Odell is on the bike today, which would be, as it would be, and would make sense for veterans to do that considering he was a go yesterday. And I'm sure that was all part of the plan. Grant Delpit as well. Who else on there? I also saw Hayden reporting that Felton was working with receivers, so there's some moving around a little bit today at practice.
Yeah, so not practicing today. Odell is not practicing on bikes next to the field. You got Higgins, Delpit, Chris Hubbard, and JoJo Natson. Stefanski had said some players on rehab plans would sit out today. That's what's happening for OBJ, Delpit, Hubbard, and Natson. We know Hollywood rolled his ankle yesterday. Derek Willey's back at practice after sitting out yesterday, as is Greedy Williams, who left a little bit early due to heat-related issues, and he is feeling good and ready to go out there today. And then Demetric Felton, again, a name to watch here, was the Browns' final pick. The final pick they made in this year's draft was one of the top all-purpose yardage getters in the Pac-12 a year ago as a running back, as a receiver, as a return man, and he has worked yesterday as a running back and did a lot, quite frankly, in 7-on-7 in teams. And today, at least in the individual periods, we'll see where he lines up in the team portions of it, but getting some work with that wide receiver room. And perhaps they're doing that because they don't have, as we mentioned, Odell, Natson, and Hollywood Higgins all missing from that room today.
And just to add a little bit of context on Felton, for those of you who are not dialed into Pac-12 football or college football in general for that matter, he played at UCLA, and he played in Chip Kelly's offense. And Chip Kelly's offense, specifically his college offense, even more so than his pro, which did this too, requires running backs to do a lot of things.
Yep.
And so that versatility is why you're seeing Felton's ability
2 minutes
running back to receiver and bounce around, because he probably cross-trained a lot at UCLA in those roles. And, of course, our front office is very smart and would know that, and would know that that would be kind of exactly what the doctor ordered for us.
Yeah, and that's why I like that selection, and so far he's off to a good start. He stood out at the rookie minicamp. He stood out at the mandatory minicamp, had a good first day, a long way to go, but sometimes, look, the more you can do, the better it is for you. When you're a young man, scratching a claw to make a very established roster on the offensive side, you got to be versatile, and you got to play special teams, and so far he is doing that.
Andrew Berry will join the program tomorrow. Those of you who are able to be at camp, enjoy it. It's going to be awesome. Excited for all of you to see this team, and excited for this team to have fans again at training camp, which is such an important part of what being a Cleveland Brown is all about. That will be tomorrow on the program.